Hare Krishna, good morning. Om Ajnana Tamanasya Anantara Shaka Shakshonritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shamrupadam Am Dadati Smapadantikam Vandhyam Shri Dhamma Padakamalam Shigam Vaishnavam Sha Shri Upam Jagajatam Sakana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivan Satvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakana Lita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Guna Sinudina Bandhu Dyatpate Gopesha Goprakanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchna Gaura Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamama Hari Priye Pankha Kalpta Vishak Kripasin Vibhisha Patnam Pavanbhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani. Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskachari Tisatani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sarva Saskha BPRS Sarva Vadeka Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnatya Sarva Lokaika Dikpata Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalitvanto Titaditya Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all the Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, who are the sun who has arisen to dispel the darkness of the Kali Yuga, you are actually Lord Krishna, who has returned among us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsyak Sarayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you, one obtains transcendental bliss, for your syllables and pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Mateko bandhu mat sangin mat ko man mahadana mat nistarika mat bhakya mat ananda namostute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu dadain ati nichochataraka hanamunshakadachin mam premarit kantayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, the uplifter of the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest upon my heart and throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. So this morning we will continue with our study of the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, verses 13 to 26. So in the last verses, we heard that the Lord is not partial, but favors the mode of goodness. That so we have heard in this section that in the previous section yesterday, Maharaj Pariksit asked the question because he had doubt whether the Lord is impartial. That it seems he sides always with the demigods, and he's against the asuras, the demons. Because he remembered in the previous canto how Diti was disturbed by the killing of her two sons, Hiranyaksa and Hiranyakasipu. And she was thinking it's Indra who is responsible for that because Indra requested help, therefore Lord Vishnu came and killed their sons. So the doubt of in the beginning of this chapter is that, yes, how can the Lord be impartial if he favors the demigods and kills the demons? That so now in this section we will have a different question. There, Maharaj Yudhishthira is asking Narada Muni that the Lord killed Sisupal. He was blaspheming the Lord. That very sinful. That in the scripture it is said, one who blasphemes the Lord, he gets leprosy, he goes to hell for many birds. But he saw the Lord gave him liberation, Sauchi liberation, because after the Lord killed Sisupal with his chakra, everyone saw how his soul entered the body of Krishna. This Sauchi liberation is that's the aim of the impersonalist, and they make so much endeavors for it, and they can't reach it. And here he gives it just to Sisupal. How merciful is he to the demons? That so that's quite the opposite. That because Maharaj Pariksit, his doubt was, yes, the Lord is not in favor of the demons, but here we see he's very much in favor of the demons. And that's another doubt. That's interesting. And with that we will discuss today. But in last verses we heard that the Lord is not partial, but he favors the mode of goodness.
Yeah, it's coming up.
He favors the mode of goodness. Because the mode of goodness is the way out. That the purpose of the whole creation is to get everyone out, back to Godhead. So there must be a way out. That's good news, right? That, yes. The mode of goodness is like going to the airport. Airport is a mode of goodness, but then you have to get on the flight. So you want to get out, you have to put yourself in the mode of goodness. Then you have a chance to go back to Godhead. Like when we go on book distribution, who is the person most likely to take a book? Someone maybe who is vegetarian, someone interested in yoga. Then you have more chance. Comes closer to the mode of goodness. That But right from the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto, Vishnu, he favors the demigods. He comes here just to reclaim those in a mode of goodness. So before coming back to this, what did we learn last during the last lesson? That the Lord controls the modes through time. Through time, he controls the modes. And that control was mentioned on 3 levels. 3 levels he uses the modes and controls the modes in different ways. And the first level is the super soul is impartial. Everyone acquires modes according to his past activities. And the Lord gives everyone situations in these modes for a certain time. So the Lord is impartial there. He gives that. But he gives also, and that's interesting, he uses also the modes for creation, annihilation, and maintenance. So that is another level. When the mode goodness is prominent, that help to maintain things. Rajas, creation. Tamas, destruction. That's at the second level. The Lord uses the modes. And we heard of a third level. The Lord uses his modes in his pastimes. And we heard the commentary from Jiva Goswami, especially. Jiva Goswami gives the example of the churning of the milk ocean. So it's churning the milk ocean. And during that churning, the Vasuki was the churning rod, and the demons at one side were churning, the demigods at the other, and they became all very tired. But the Lord infused Vasuki with the mode of ignorance and gave power to the demons by infusing them with rajas, and gave power to the demigods by infusing them with the mode of goodness. And we know finally those in the mode of goodness will be always victorious in time. So that's another level where Krishna uses these modes in his pastimes. And he uses his modes and he stays aloof, like he's also under the modes. But Krishna knows you can predict how someone will act in a certain mode. It's not difficult to say that you can predict how a drunken man will react on things in the mode of ignorance. Or how you can predict how one in the mode of goodness, a devotee, how he will act will be different. So that is how the Lord uses the modes on different levels. But he comes to reclaim those in the mode of goodness. Time is under the Lord, and therefore time is favoring goodness. Time is moving according to the plan of the Lord. And what's the plan of the Lord? To bring everyone back to Godhead. That's the purpose of the creation. When we put ourselves in the mode of goodness, then we are acting in accordance with the purpose of creation. That when we are in accordance with the purpose of creation, we act in accordance with the Lord's desire. So, in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, their Lord Krishna calls the spirit soul the cooperator. The cooperator. We are meant to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, act according to his desires. And Shreyas Upanishad also, it brings the Isavasya principle, understanding that everything belongs to the Lord and is meant for his service. And then if one acts as such, one acts in harmony with the Lord. Now, so we have heard in verses 7, 12, Sukadev Goswami answered Maharaj Parikshit's question about the Lord's biased behavior. In the next verse, that Sukadev Goswami will tell a story to illustrate how the Lord is always impartial. So previously, Narada has given an example to Yudhishthira Maharaj. At the Rajasuya sacrifice, Shishupal was very envious. So then how did he attain that position of liberation? So that is what Maharaj Yudhishthira will ask now. So now we come on text 13. Atrai Fodatrita Purvam Itihasa Surasina Pritya Mahakata Rajan Pichate Chata Satrave. Formerly, O king, when Maharaj Yudhishthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, the great sage Narad, responding to his inquiry, recited historical facts showing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always impartial, even when killing demons. In this regard, he gave a vivid example. Then the next verse. Trishva Mahabhutam Raja Raja Suye Mahakato Vasudeve Bhagavati Sayucham Sedibu Bhuja Tatra Shinam Surarishim Raja Pandu Sutakato Papacha Vishmita Mana Muninam Shimpatamitam. O king, at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the son of Maharaj Pandu, personally saw Shishupal merge into the body of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Therefore, struck with wonder, he inquired about the reason for this from the great sage Narada, who was seated there. While he inquired, all the sages present also heard him ask his question. Shri Yudhishthira Uvacha Ahohatyatam ieta dulabhaikantinam api Vasudevi paritatve praptisetyasya vitvisha. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, "It is very wonderful that the demon Sisupal merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sayucha Mukti is impossible to attain, even for great transcendentalists. How then did the enemy of the Lord attain it?" So Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, "It's very wonderful that the demon merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sayucha Mukti is impossible to attain even for great transcendentalists." So say, how can an enemy of the Lord attain that? If the Lord is impartial, so in the purport there, Srila Prabhupada, he speaks about two classes of transcendentalists, the Jnanis and the Bhaktas. But we know that the Bhaktas, they don't want, the devotees they don't want to merge with the Lord's existence. That's hell for them. But the Jnanis, they do. That's their aim. So Sisupal, he was neither a Jnani nor a Bhakta. So simply by envy of the Lord, he attained that position of merging into the body's into the Lord's body. Everyone saw it. So this is astonishing. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired about the cause of the Lord's mysterious mercy on the Lord. 17. Eta viditam echama sarvaiva vayam mune bhagavan indaya veno vichas tamasi patita. O great sage, we are all eager to know the cause for this mercy of the Lord. I've heard that formerly a king named Vena blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the Brahmins consequently obliged him to go to hell. Sisupal should also have been sent to hell. How then did he merge into the Lord's existence? Dhamagosha sutta papa arabhya kalabasanat sampyat amarshi govinde dantavaka sadhumati. From the very beginning of his childhood, when he could not even speak properly, Sisupal, the most sinful son of Dhamaghosh, began blaspheming the Lord, and he continued to be envious of Krishna until death. Similarly, his brother Dantavaka continued in the same habit. So, text 19. Sapator asakrit vishnum yad brahma param avyayam svitrana jata jivayam nandan vivasatustama. Although the two men, Sisupal and Dantavaka, repeatedly blasphemed the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Brahman, they were quite healthy. Indeed, their tongues were not attacked by white leprosy, nor did they even enter the darkness region of hellish life. We are certainly not most surprised by this. So Srila Prabhupada points out this verse shows that the Supreme Vishnu is Krishna, because Krishna is the cause of Vishnu, not vice versa. Similarly, Brahman is not the cause of Krishna. Krishna is the cause of Brahman. So the usual reaction for blaspheming pure devotees or devotees is that one loses one's health, one's longevity of life, and so on. One that we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that I think it was Gopal Chakravarti who got this tax collector who was blaspheming Haridas Thakur and then got leprosy and so on. That these are the usual reactions, but Maharaj Yudhishthira said they were quite healthy, no? That they didn't suffer for that seemingly. That's also astonishing. That and then 20. Katam tasmim bhagavati duravankhaya dhamani pasyatam sarvalokanam layam ijatu anyasa. How was it possible for Shishupal and Dantabraka, in the presence of many exalted persons, to enter very easily into the body of Krishna, whose nature is difficult to attain? That of course, that we see that in the purport, Srila Prabhupada clarifies, Shishupal and Dantabraka were formerly Jai and Vijay, the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. Merging into the mood of Krishna was not their final destination. So they attained Saucha Mukti as a temporary destination. They had to appear 3 times, Jai and Vijay, because they had a desire to fight with the Lord. And to fill that desire, they took birth. That it was their service. And the Lord has covered them or infused them with the modes of Rajas and Tamas to play that role perfectly. So that was their service. So that explains the situation to a certain extent. There is much more to say. Text 21. Eta pramyati me buddhir diparshir iva vayuna puyeta adbhutatmanam paravan yatra karanam. This matter is undoubtedly very wonderful. Indeed, my intelligence has become disturbed, just as a flame of a candle is disturbed by a blowing wind. O Narad Muni, you know everything. Kindly let me know the cause of this wonderful event. So the Shastras enjoined Tat vihyanachtam sagrum iva bigachat. When one is perplexed by the difficult problems of life, to solve them, one must approach a guru like Narada or his representative in disciplic succession. Maharaj Yudhishthira therefore requested Narada to explain the cause of this event. So we'll read up to text 25. 22. Shibhadarayani Uvachara Chastatvacha Karnya Narado Bhagavan Rishi Tustaprahatamapyasya Shimvatyas Tat Sadakata. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, after hearing the request of Maharaj Yudhishthir, Narada Muni, the most powerful spiritual master who knew everything, was very pleased. Thus he replied in the presence of everyone, taking part in the Jagya. Srinarada Vacha Nindanastava Satkara Nyakarachtam Kalibram Pradana Parayorajan Abhivekene Kalapitan. The great sage Srinarada said, O king, blasphemy and praise, chastisement and respect are experienced because of ignorance. The body of the conditioned soul is planned by the Lord for suffering in the material world through the agency of the external energy. So there is a lot of in this purport, in this verse and purport, that says, when one is affected by blasphemy of praise, chastisement, and respect, it means one has false ego. We suffer because of the false ego. That it's suffering because false ego means I and mine. So this I and mine are misconceptions. That false ego means we see the world to this I and mine. So we see that we have heard about the Jnani and the Bhakta. That the Jnani wants to merge with the impersonal Brahman. The Jnani thinks I'm everything, I. Still false ego is there. Of course, the karmists, they say this is mine for my enjoyment. So the illusioned living entity appears in so many forms offered by the external energy of the Lord. That's we heard already in the second canto, 292. That we get so many forms are offered by the external energy. But while enjoying this modes of material nature, the engaged living entity misconceives. He thinks in I and mine. And that's extended, Srila Prabhupada says, that all ism that are based on this misconception, seeing the world through I and mine. And that conception makes us suffer. That it is said here, the body of the conditioned souls is planned by the Lord for suffering. There it's clearly said, the body is a machine for suffering. That most people in this world will not accept it. They think the body is for enjoyment. But when you get older, you start to understand. You get up in the morning, you have pain somewhere. The next morning, the pain moves to another place. Always something. That's when you get old. This body, Ishvara Sarvabhutnam Richayunatiti Brahmayam Sarvabhutanam Yantra Rudrayamaya. It's a yantra to give us pain. So a body to give us pain. And it's under control of the Lord. That through who controls material nature. So, and why does a devotee does not has an enemy? he sees everyone as an instrument of Krishna. He doesn't see enemies. So it's the subtle body. It's the subtle body who experience this blasphemy, this praise, this chastisement, and this respect. That if we get chastised, we feel horrible sometimes. But the devotee is not upset when suffering. That he thinks when I'm suffering, the Lord is rectifying me. Because I'm suffering because of my past sins. What makes us suffering is I'm the controller. That will be explained in the next verse also. But first, the purport of 23. Actually, the suffering of being blasphemed and the enjoyment of being praised, the acceptance of good, welcome, or chastisement by harsh words are felt in the material conception of life. Only in the material concept of life. We cannot impose that on the Supreme Lord. Because we are in false ego, we think the Lord has also false ego and will also suffer from that. No, it's not like that. That's a false imposition. But since the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not material, but Satchitananda Vigraha is unaffected by insults of greetings, blasphemy, or prayers. We pray to the Lord. Is the Lord affected? No. But our prayers are for our benefit. That is unaffected by insults of greetings, blasphemy, or prayers. So, indeed, the Lord is very kind to his so-called enemy, because one who always thinks of the personality of God as an enemy also benefits, although he thinks of the Lord adversely. We will also hear that tomorrow. No, in the next class, which will be on Saturday, at a later time than today, that but he thinks, yes, we will learn that when one thinks of the Lord, whether positively or negatively, one will become purified anyway. That so Sisipal became purified, although his intention was wrong. That does not mean that we can perform service in that mood. No. Anu Kulyena Krishnano, we must do it favorably. So if the conditioned soul thinks of the Lord as an enemy or friend somewhere or another, and he becomes attached to the Lord, he receives great benefit. We see many times when someone blasphemes us or tries to harm us, and we become upset. So upset, we think constantly of that person. We cannot get it out of our mind. And we see also that Sisipal was like that. He could not get the Lord out of his mind. He was constantly Krishna conscious, but negatively. Kamsa also, out of fear, he was always thinking of Krishna. Yeah, that a certain moment he saw his queens and he was taking them for Krishna and Balaram, and he was going to pull out his sword, and the queen said, "Oh, cool down, Kamsa, we are your wives." That text 25. Yeah. before we go into 25, that these misconceptions of I and mine, how do they arise? We can learn from Lord Brahma, 3rd Canto, chapter 20, verse 18 and following, that there Lord Brahma is going to start his Visarga, his secondary creation. But before he starts his Visarga, the secondary creation, he's going to create a material atmosphere in which those with material bodies can survive, can work, can function. And that's this atmosphere that creates false ego. And it creates layers of false ego, layers of material energy. And the first layer of false ego that causes false ego, it's creating what tamas. Tamas makes one to forget Krishna. That's the cause of everything. If we forget Krishna, we forget ourselves. And then we create a false ego. And that's stimulated by the second layer, moha. Moha means I'm the body, I. A false I. And then when one thinks one as the body, oh, everything dear to the body and related to the body, that's mine, that's for my enjoyment. That's mahamoha. And then suffering comes. Because if you identify with the body and you think that is mine, everything what you think is yours in this world, it's temporary and it changes constantly. It goes to phases. Relationships changes. That we buy something, a car, you have to maintain it because it changes. That an accident, so many things, and you suffer because you think it's mine. Someone takes your money away, a big tax bill, and one suffers. So then tamishra comes, suffering. And that ends in the last layer that Brahma creates, under tamishra. Then one thinks with death everything is finished. When Srila Prabhupada visited Professor Potofsky in Moscow, that he was a specialist in Vedic literature. And he said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, at the time of death, everything is finished. Interesting. But still he met Srila Prabhupada. Last year, I was in Lviv, in the Ukraine, and one devotee was driving me. And he told me, I'm the grandson of Professor Potofsky of Moscow. He became a devotee. The Srila Prabhupada gave him his mercy. His grandson would become a devotee. Interesting. The mercy of Prabhupada. Yes. That's so we read text 24. Himsatat abhimanena danda parusyoyata vaishamya bhutanam mamaham iti bhaktiva. My dear king, the conditioned soul, being in the bodily conception of life, considers his body to be self and considers everything in relationship to the body to be his. Because he has his wrong conception, is subjected to the dualities like praise and chastisement. So here you have this I and mine. To think the body is his self, a false I. And thinking everything in relationship to my body, it's mine. My family, my wife, my car, mine. But nothing is ours. That's reality. I was just here for a moment. For a moment, we have in time. We have some time in this body to experience certain modes according to our previous karma. If you have this knowledge, you can see how Krishna infuses people with passion, with ignorance, and some with goodness. That you can see how these modes act factually. But we have to put ourselves in goodness, and that's the message. That only when a conditioned soul accepts the body as himself does he feel the effects of chastisement or praise. So if you suffer means you identify with the body. And yes, you have false ego. That if someone praises you and you feel good, false ego. If someone is blaspheming you, says bad things about you, and you feel very bad, false ego. Means you have a strong, the more you suffer, the more you ein mind. By that we can understand what our level of advancement also is. That if you are still experiencing that, you did not go far into anartha nivritti yet. It's not easy to come nishta, the liberated platform. We try to act as on that platform, but yes, anartha nivritti. Text 25. Because of the bodily conception of life, the conditioned soul thinks when the body is annihilated, the living being is annihilated. So that is this andatta mishra, thinking with death everything is finished. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller, the super soul of all living entities. That because he has no material body, he has no false conception of I and mine. So the Lord does not have that. We cannot project that in the Lord. The Lord, there is no envy. There is no fear. There's no lamentation. That he may, in his pastimes, act like he's under the modes. That's his lila. That and therefore Queen Kunti says, your pastimes are very bewildering. Because you act as an ordinary human being. That so he has no material body, has no false conception of I and mine. It is therefore incorrect to think that he feels pleasure or pain when blasphemed or offers prayers. We should not, our mentality of false ego, project into the Lord. This is impossible for him, but he has no enemy and no friend. When he chastises the demons, it's for their good. When he accepts prayers for the devotees, for their good. He is affected neither by prayers nor by blasphemy. The Lord Atma Rami doesn't need these things. He's not affected by it. The purpose of Srila Prabhupada writes, because being covered by material bodies, the conditioned soul, including even greatly learned scholars and falsely educated professors, all think that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. So a big education, but they cannot even understand that they are not a body. I remember that because I got my PhD in the study of religion at the University of Wales, and I spoke with so many scholars, and some they know Bhagavad Gita, they can quote Bhagavad Gita and so on. But despite all this knowledge, they cannot understand that they are not a body. That they take it all as mythology. So that will not help. That because they project their false ego in all these things. So this is due to their bodily conception of life. Krishna has no such bodily conception, nor is his body different from himself. Therefore, since Krishna has no material conception of life, how can he be affected by material prayers and accusations? Krishna's body is described as Kaivalya, non-different from himself. So that's the difference between us in the conditioned state and Krishna. That explains in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna appears in the same self-same body by his Atma Maya, by his spiritual energy. And he says to Arjuna, you forget because you are changing bodies. You are changing bodies and accepting bodies as the self. So therefore, Sri Krishna has no material conception of life. How can he be affected by material prayers and accusations? Krishna is described as Kaivalya, non-different from himself, since everyone has a material bodily conception of life. If Krishna has such a conception, what would be the difference between Krishna and the conditioned souls? What's then the difference? It's like the king. The king sometimes visits the prison house and gives his mercy to prisoners to free them. But if the king is in the prison house, then does it mean he's also a prisoner? No. Since everyone has a material body conception of life, if Krishna has such a conception, what would be the difference between Krishna and the conditioned souls? Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita are accepted as final because he does not possess a material body. As soon as one has a material body, he has 4 deficiencies. But since Krishna does not possess a material body, he has no deficiency. Then Srila Prabhupada continues that yes, Sakshidanda Viha, his form is eternal, blissful. Sakshidanda Viha, Ananda Sinmaya Ras, and Kaivalya are the same. So the Lord has no such defective body conceptions. Whenever the Lord punishes persons like demons, however, such punishment is meant for the good of the conditioned soul. It's meant for their rectification. That the conditioned soul, being envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may accuse him, saying, Krishna is bad, Krishna is a thief, and so on. Krishna, being kind to all living entities, does not consider such accusations. So, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, that, yes, he would count the number of Hare Krishna mantras in an article and then say, oh, it's a good article. Srila Prabhupada did something similar. Someone, a devotee, showed him an article against the Hare Krishna movement. And Srila Prabhupada was counting the Hare Krishna mantras, how many times Krishna's name was mentioned in the article. And said, oh, many times, very good. They will become purified. Whether they see the Lord, good or bad, that they fix their mind on him, on his name, by reading it. So the Lord is purifying them. He sometimes punishes such demons for one life by putting them in a lower species, but then when they have stopped accusing him, they are liberated in the next life because of chanting Krishna's name constantly. So even in Vrindavan, they are living Mayavadis, they are preaching, so their false philosophy. And in next life in Vrindavan, they become monkeys or hogs or dogs for one life, and they become purified. Srila Prabhupada writes this, how merciful Srila Prabhupada is. He punishes his demons for one life by putting them in lower species. But then when they have stopped accusing him, they are liberated in the next life because of chanting Krishna's name constantly. How Krishna is merciful even to those who blaspheme him. Blaspheming the Supreme Lord or his devotees, not all good for the conditioned soul, but Krishna, being very kind, punishes the conditioned soul in one life. For such activities, then they take him back home, back to Godhead. So the example is Vitra. One of the examples Srila Prabhupada gives is Vitrasur. Vitrasur told Indra in the battle, yes, you will be successful. You will get what you want. Don't worry. You will get rain over the rain over the heavenly planets. You will regain it. And I will also be successful. I will go back to Godhead. So who is most successful? Srila Prabhupada writes, yes, the Indra will stay rotting in this material world, and Vitrasur will go back to Godhead. But Vitrasur in his previous life was Chitraketu. Now Chitraketu, he blasphemed in some way Lord Shiva, and he was cursed by Parvati to become a demon. That one life a demon, and then he went back to Godhead. That's interesting. Because he derided Lord Shiva, the foremost of all devotees, he had to accept a body of a demon called Vritra. But then he was taken back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada gives scriptural reference for what he said before. A demon blaspheming the Lord, that's get one life in lower species, one life as a demon again, or as a dog and a hog in Vrindavan, and going back to Godhead. Thus, when Krishna punishes a demon or conditioned soul, he stops that soul's habit of blaspheming him. And when the soul becomes completely pure, the Lord takes him back to Godhead. But now, before reading this last verse, I want to go to the Bhagavata, and these pastimes of to look at these pastimes of the deliverance of Shishupal. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, and so many Brahmins were doing rituals before that. So the learned Brahmins and priests saw to it that the sacrifice by Maharaj Yudhishthira was performed in exactly the same way as it had been in bygone ages by the demigod Varuna. According to the Vedic system, whenever there is an arrangement for sacrifice, the members participating are offered the juice of the soma plant, which is a kind of life-giving beverage. On the day of extracting the soma juice, King Yudhishthira very respectfully received a special priest who had been engaged to detect any mistake in the formalities of the sacrificial procedure. So many of these rituals were going on. But then an important part of that procedure is that the most exalted personality in the assembly of such a sacrificial ceremony is first offered worship. After all arrangements were made for Yudhishthira's sacrifice, the next consideration was who would be worshipped first in the ceremony. And that ceremony is called Agra Puja. Agra means first and Puja means worship. Agra Puja is similar to the election of a president. To the election of a president. In the sacrificial assembly, all the members were very exalted, and some proposed to elect one person as the perfect candidate for accepting Agra Puja, and others proposed someone else. But the matter remained undecided, but finally Sadev began to speak in favor of Krishna. So I will read what Sadev said, and then Shishupal, his envy was boiling over when he heard that. Lord Krishna, the best among the member of the Yadu dynasty and the protector of his devotees, is the most exalted personality in this assembly. Therefore, I think that he should, without any objection, be offered the honor of being worshipped first. Although demigods such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and many other exalted personalities are present in this assembly, no one can be equal or greater than Krishna in terms of time, space, riches, strength, reputation, wisdom, renunciation, or any other consideration. Anything considered an opulence is fully present in Krishna. As an individual soul is the basic principle of the growth of this material body, Krishna is a super soul of this cosmic manifestation. And it continues like that. And then he said, also Krishna can do anything he likes with any part of his body. That we can execute a particular action with the help of a particular part of our body, but he can do anything and everything with any part of his body. And it continues like that. Yes. And at the end, he says, Krishna is present as the super soul in every living being. And if we can satisfy him, then every living being will automatically be satisfied. So Sadev, which is one of the younger Pandavas, he was fortunate to know all these glories of Krishna. And at the third time, after glorifying Krishna, he stopped speaking. So after his speech, all the members present in the sacrificial assembly applauded, confirming his words continually by saying, everything you said is completely perfect. After then King Yudhishthira, after hearing the confirmation by all present, especially the Brahmins and learned sages, worshipped Lord Krishna according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. First of all, King Yudhishthira, along with his brothers, wives, children, and other relatives and ministers, washed the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and sprinkled the water on their heads. After this, he offered to Lord Krishna various kinds of yellow silken garments and presented heaps of jewelry and ornaments before him for his use. King Yudhishthira felt such ecstasy by honoring Krishna, his only lovable object, and tears glided from his eyes. And although he wanted to see Lord Krishna, he could not see him very well. When Krishna was done worshipped by Lord Yudhishthira, all the members present in the assembly stood up with folded hands and began to chant, Jai, Jai, Nama, Nama. All joined together to offer their respectful obeisances to Krishna, and there were showers of flowers from the sky. But then in that meeting, King Shishupal was also present. He was an avowed enemy of Krishna for many reasons, especially because of Krishna's having stolen Rukmini from his intended marriage ceremony. Therefore, he could not tolerate such honoring of Krishna and glorification of his qualities. Instead of being happy to hear the glories of the Lord, he became angry when everyone offered respect to Krishna by standing up. Shishupal remained in his seat, but as he became angrier at Krishna's being honored, he stood up suddenly, raised his hand, and spoke very strongly and fearlessly against Lord Krishna, in such a way that Lord Krishna could hear him distinctly. Ladies and gentlemen, I can appreciate now the statement of the Vedas that after all, time is the predominating factor. In spite of endeavor to the contrary, the time element executes its own plan. For example, one may try his best to live, but when the time for death comes, no one can check it. I see here that although many stalwart personalities are present in this assembly, the influence of time is so strong that they have been misled by the statement of a boy who has foolishly spoken about Krishna. And then he starts his blasphemy. Interesting is when Shishupal was to birth, his first words were blasphemy of Krishna. It is said that he was born with four hands and three eyes. And a voice predicted, or I think it was Narada Muni who predicted that if his mother puts the baby of Shishupal on the lap of someone who will kill him later, the extra arms and the extra eye will disappear. So, and his mother put the baby on the lap of many persons. When she gave the baby to Krishna, then the extra arm disappeared, and also the extra eye. And she said to Krishna, please don't kill him. Tolerate everything what he will do in his life. And Krishna says, okay, I will tolerate up to 99 blasphemy in one row. And Shishupal knew that, but he didn't count. And Krishna was counting that. So then at a certain time, that's after his presentation, his envious presentation, all the kings present belonging to the Kuru dynasty Matsya dynasty, Kekaya dynasty, and Srinjaya dynasty were very angry and immediately took up their swords and shields to kill Sisupal, who was so foolish that he was not even slightly agitated, although the king present were ready to kill him. So, interesting. But Krishna knew the purpose of Sisupal was to get a fight going on, and that there would be blood everywhere, and by that the Rajasuya sacrifice would be spoiled. That was his purpose. But Sisupal did not care of the pros and cons of his foolish taking, and instead of stopping them, he saw that all the kings were ready to kill him. He stood to fight with them and took up his sword and shield. When Lord Krishna saw that they were going to fight in the arena of the auspicious Rajasuya Yajna, he personally pacified them. Out of his gracious mercy, he himself decided to kill Sisupal. When Sisupal was abusing the kings who were about to attack him, Lord Krishna took up his disc, as sharp as a blade of a razor, and immediately separated Sisupal's head from his body. When Sisupal was thus killed, a great roar and howl went up from the crowd. Taking advantage of that disturbance, the few kings who were supporters of Sisupal quickly left the assembly out of fear of their lives. Then the fortunate Sisupal's spirit soul immediately merged into the body of Lord Krishna in the presence of all, exactly as a burning meteor falls to the surface of the globe. The merging of Sisupal's soul into the transcendental body of Krishna reminds us of the story of Jai and Vijay, who fell to the material world from the Vaikuntha planets and being cursed by the four Kumaras. For their return to the Vaikuntha world, it was arranged that both Jai and Vijay, for 3 consecutive births, would act as deadly enemies of the Lord. And at the end of these lives, they would return to Vaikuntha and serve the Lord as his associates. Although Sisupal acted as the enemy of Krishna, he was not for a single moment out of Krishna consciousness. He was always absorbed in thought of Krishna, and thus he got the salvation of Saucha, merging into the existence of the Supreme, and was finally reinstated in his original position of personal service. The Bhagavad Gita corroborates the fact that one who is absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Lord at the time of death immediately enters the kingdom of God after quitting his material body. So that's the pastime of Sisupal. That now text 26, the last text of today. Therefore, and tasmat varanu bandena nirvarena payena va sneat kamena vayunyat katachin nekshate pritach. Therefore, by enmity, or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desires, by all these, or any one of them, if a condition so somewhere or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. He remains always in full bliss. So one may think, yes, I think of Krishna as my enemy, no problem. But Srila Prabhupada mentioning the purport gives reference to the verse of Rupa Goswami. Anu kalyena Krishna no sila nambhakti shate. So anukulyena, it should be, one should serve the Lord very favorably. This is the real injunction. Here it is said that although an enemy thinks of Krishna unfavorably, the Lord is unaffected by such anti-devotional service. Thus he offers benedictions to Sisupal, and similarly in inimical conditioned souls. This does not mean, however, that one should be inimical towards the Lord. The stress is given to favorable execution of devotional service, not purposeful blasphemy of the Lord. That it is said, Nindam Bhagavata Shimvam Tat Parasya Janasya Va Tautanai Patiya Yopi Yat Yak Sukhitak Shuta. One who hears blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his devotees should immediately take action or should leave. Otherwise, it'll be put in hellish conditions perpetually. There are many injunctions, therefore, as regulated principle, one should not be unfavorable toward the Lord, but always favorably inclined toward him. We have learned in Nectar of Devotion 3 things to do one should consider when one hears blasphemy of the Lord. The 3 things. The first is that one should try to convince the blasphemer with arguments. If one is not able to do that, then one should give up one's life. But that's difficult, because if you commit suicide, you cannot. If you are a Vaishnava is more than a Brahman. You kill a Brahman, you cannot do that. So then you have to leave the place. And that's what's suggested here. And therefore, when Shishupal started speaking, many were leaving. And some became angry and wanted to kill him at the end. That Shishupal's achievement of oneness through the Supreme was different, because Jai and Vijay. So that's the reason why that is another reason. So the first reason is, yes, he was always thinking of the Supreme Lord, and he became purified. Positive or negative, one will become purified. If one have Krishna in one's mind, one will become purified. The Lord in the mind is antiseptic and prophylactic. It's mentioned in the Shis Upanishad. Antiseptic means that all our lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, all our false ego, suddenly diminishes and disappears. That prophylactic means it acts like a vaccine. No new contamination can come in. So that was very fortunate. But here another reason is giving Jai and Vijay. It was their service to become the enemies of the Lord. That they were ordained to treat the Supreme Lord as an enemy for 3 lives. That so Jai and Vijay inwardly knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they purposefully became his enemies to be delivered from material life. So from the beginning of their lives, their thought was on Krishna. Even though blaspheming Lord Krishna, they chanted the name of Krishna constantly, along with their inimical thoughts, thus they were purified because of chanting the holy name of Krishna. We see also we have heard in previous chapters that beginning of the 3rd canto, the point is made, the Lord was so merciful to the Putana demon. She came to kill him by smearing her breast with poison, trying to feed him and kill him. But she felt also motherly attraction to Krishna. And Krishna took only the good part. And she was promoted to the position of nurse in the spiritual world. So, by rapt attention fixed upon Krishna, one is purified, and thus one is delivered from the material walls. Srila Vishwanath Thakur very nicely explained the word bhayena, which means by fear. When the gopis went to Krishna in the dead of night, they certainly feared chastisement of their relatives, their husbands, brothers and fathers, but nonetheless, not caring for their relatives, they went to Krishna. There was certainly fear, but this fear could not shake their devotional service. That's an interesting point. That one should not think mistakenly that Lord Krishna must be worshipped by an inimical attitude like that of Shishupal. The injunction is anukulyasya jnanam pratikulyasya varchanam. One should give up unfavorable activities and accept favorable conditions in devotional service. Generally, if one blasphemes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is punished. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita that Tamat Vistakaram Samsares Naradanam Kshipam Ajasrasam Asuban Asarif Eva Jonisho. So Krishna says there, yes, I will throw them in lower species of life. So one should not try to be killed by embracing an enemy, a tiger or a snake, or should not blaspheme the personality of Godhead and become his enemy in order to be put in hellish life. The purpose of this verse is to emphasize that even the enemy of the Lord can be delivered, not to speak of his friend. Srimad Vacharya also says in many ways that one should not blaspheme Lord Vishnu through one's mind, words and actions, for the blasphemer will go to hellish life. Yes. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita again, 9, 11 and 12. Abhajante mamuda mansham tanamashvita brahmavamajanta mamabhutamashvam. The Mudas rascals blaspheme the Supreme Lord because he appears just like a human being. They do not know his unlimited opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mogsa moga karmana moghana vishejasa akshima shrem shiva prakti moitim shriya. Anything done by those who have taken the attitude of enemies will be baffled. So that's to be considered. Whatever you desire to achieve, if you think the Lord is an ordinary person, you are a Muda. The impersonalists, they want to, they are, and the Jnanis also. The Jnanis, whatever they desire, it will be baffled. That whatever knowledge they want to develop, they will not get the real knowledge. That anything done by those who have taken an attitude as enemies in the Lord will be baffled. If these enemies try to be liberated or merge into the existence of Brahman, if they desire to be elevated to higher planetary systems as karmis, or even if they desire to return back to Godhead, they will always be baffled. And that's how the material nature works. That if you don't have an attitude of devotion to Krishna, everything you achieve, you will get the opposite in material nature. And that's what Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita says. I see I will get the opposite of what I desire. I wanted a flourishing kingdom and enjoy with his relatives, but we will get the opposite. That's everyone, and that's confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, you want to enjoy, you will suffer. That's the reaction. You will get the opposite. That if you don't consider that Krishna is the owner of everything, and everything is for his enjoyment. As for Hiranyakasipu, although he was extremely inimical toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he always thought of his son, who was a great devotee. Therefore, by the grace of his son, Prahlad Maharaj was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here see that it's not just thinking of Krishna, he's also thinking of his pure devotee, his purifying one. That the conclusion is that one should not give up pure devotional service. For one's own benefit, one should not imitate Hiranyakasipu Sisupal. That is not the way to achieve success. And during the next section, which we will discuss on Saturday, that we will hear more about these different attitudes towards Krishna. That the different attitudes and how this process further works. So how the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Sisupal and others by envy, the others by their family relationships with Krishna, the Pandavas by their affection for Krishna, that they obtained the mercy of Krishna. So that will be very interesting. Srila Prabhupada in his purpose will also go into Ragamach and the attitude of the devotees of Vrindavan. That will be very interesting. So there have been many who have opposed the Hare Krishna movement, who were inimical to us. We have especially seen in the last 20 years, especially in Poland, the church was opposing the Hare Krishna movement. That there was a nun, a Christian nun, who brought the Hare Krishna movement before court, and the charge was that they worship a god, Krishna, who is immoral. That was her charge, because he's immoral because he was married with 16,000 wives. And is dancing with others' wives. And when the court case started, and the nun was there, and the case started with our lawyer was asking one question to the nun, and she asked the nun, what is the meaning of the ring at your finger? And by that, the court case was finished. Because this ring means for Christian nuns, they are married to Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is married with so many nuns. That was interesting. But Srila Prabhupada would never criticize Christ or Muhammad. So he said, chant the Lord's name. When the Buddha said to Srila Prabhupada that in Tehran they are chanting Allah's names. And Srila Prabhupada said, very good. And then Allah's names. The devotee said, should they not chant Krishna's names? And Srila Prabhupada said, would you want me to be sectarian? That's interesting. So we should not criticize him. He never criticized Christ or Muhammad. Srila Prabhupada was meeting with a Christian nun, and she said to Prabhupada that please pray that I can get the mercy of Jesus Christ. And Srila Prabhupada, he was very merciful to her. He said, yes, be sure you will get the mercy of Jesus Christ. But at the same time, with a French cardinal, a French cardinal who finally died in the arms of a prostitute. Srila Prabhupada was very firm. He spoke about it. You should follow the 10 commandments. You should not eat meat or kill animals. Thou shalt not kill. Yes. Anyway, I see that Truvanath Prabhu has his hand up, but we will be taking questions in the second session. We will now pause for 10 minutes. And then after that, we will go to a few questions and have a discussion. And then at the end, questions. Thank you very much. We will stop now for 10 minutes. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we will resume our class now. I will start with a few questions that first I want you to remind you about the relevance of Maharaj Yudhishthira Raja Surya sacrifice to understand how the Lord is partial and impartial. That the answer we can find in the verses. That so that's something you should remember. But we will not go into that. But I have two questions for you. The first is, please tell me whether you agree or disagree with the following statements. We are unable to understand the motivations that prompt the Lord, that prompt the actions of the Lord. Explain the reason behind your response. So are we able or unable to understand the motivations that prompt the Lord? It said we cannot understand the motivations of the Lord. That is someone wants to reply, wants to answer this question? Please raise your hand if you want. We should be able to answer that question now after the presentation. Other Prabhupada Priya, yes, yes. Unmute. Hare Krishna.
Even if we were, we're so. Can you hear me? And even if we were, we're so small that it's hard for us to comprehend, the thinking of the Lord. But in a general sense, we can understand that the motivation of the Lord is to show kindness to everybody. We see that here, like Krishna is trying to do good to everybody. Mm-hmm. That even Shishupal, who blasphemes him, Putana who tried to kill him. He took the positive things out of that Kuchupal chanted his name so many times that Shishupal was always thinking about him, that Putana had motherly affection. And so, yeah, his motivation is to try to do good for everybody and to ultimately help the souls to come back to him. But, yeah, and even in his chastisement, he's doing good. So, yeah, his motivation is that he's a well-wisher of all living entities, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, and his actions are all in pursuance of that. So that would be my...
Okay, so you disagree with the statement. You disagree
Yeah, I
with...
mean, in a specific sense, we can't understand, and we certainly can't understand completely, but just in a general sense, we can understand and be reassured that Krishna does everything for the good of all parties.
Very good. Thank you. That this is one way of answering these questions, and all the points you are made are very good. That we spoke about a few other things. Someone else wants to add something to this excellent answer of Mother Prabhupada Priya?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
I read in the talk that the ultimate motivation of Krishna for everything is to take a living entity back to Godhead. So, in that sense, yes, we can know the ultimate conclusion and motivation of Krishna in taking a living entity, a soul back to Godhead.
Okay, that's another very good point. Yes, that more comments. There were also the philosophical points made. That yes, Vishalaksha Prabhu, you can speak.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Vishalaksha Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes, I'm agreeing with your statement, Guru Maharaj. I'm agreeing with the statement. Are you able to hear?
Yeah, I'm hearing you perfectly and clear.
Yeah.
Yes, please tell us
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, the reason is that, for example, Srila Prabhupada nicely explains the cow dung is pure. See, the stool of any animal is impure. We have to take a bath. Somebody touches. But cow also comes under also animal. But the cow dung is very pure. It's very difficult to understand why Lord said that it is a pure.
Okay, that's a counter argument. You seem to agree with this statement.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, but we have also heard arguments against. Yeah. Yes, Avinash Mathur Prabhu, you want to say something?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Am I audible?
Yeah, I'm hearing you clear.
Yeah, in the ultimate sense, the Lord would always remain incomprehensible. We certainly cannot understand the Lord at all. But through the explanations given by Narada Muni and Shukdev Goswami, they are explaining or rationalizing the actions of the Lord, why this happened. And these are the answers to the questions of Yudhishthira Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
So partly we are able to understand, but ultimately Lord would always remain incomprehensible to us, mortals like us.
Okay. It seems that we can understand him in general terms, but not the details.
Yeah, we can understand through the teachings and explanations given by such people as Narada Muni and Shukdev Goswami.
To the margins can understand.
Yes.
That's good. Good point. Someone else? want to contribute?
So can I add one point?
Yes, sure.
One sense we cannot understand the motivations of the Lord, but at the same time we can understand very easily through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra.
Okay, that's a lesson we can learn here also. That okay, someone else want to contribute? Yeah, I see someone raises his hand, but I see only his phone number, so I cannot. Yeah, yeah. Best is to write your name when you log in, then I can address you properly. So Divyalila Mataji, please speak.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Yes, Maharaj. Prabhupada also quotes the verse from the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that his motivation for the jiva is to bring the jiva to the right path. And Prabhupada also quotes the verse from the 16th chapter, 19th verse, that why the Lord put the jiva into the demoniac species, because when the jiva takes the human form and commits most abominable activities, the jiva cannot handle so much punishments in that human form of life. And that is the reason why the Lord put him in the demoniac species, so that accordingly the jiva gets the punishment, which will not affect him so much. So if we understand the motivation, and also as Prabhuji rightly said, that we understand these motivations of the Lord through the Bhaktivedanta purpose.
Yeah, so the main point is he wants to bring us back to Godhead and rectify us. Good. That very good. God Krishna Prabhu, yeah. Can you also speak?
Yes. Well, I agree with everything that everybody said. Very good points. But just that we can understand some obvious things, like, you know, the Lord's mercy. He wants to bestow mercy on all conditioned souls. But he's also he's also achieving many different purposes at the same time. So we don't understand all the details like that. Like Prabhupada Priya said, but so he managed to resolve many different, apparently conflicting interests somehow or other by his great intelligence or mystic potency that we can't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's mentioned also in the Bhagavad Gita that the intricacies of karma are very difficult to understand, and Krishna takes care of on that level also. But also it says Ananya Sintyantam Yechana Paripashtite Samnitya Vyuktam Yorkshema Famyam. For my devotees, I provide them everything what they need for their spiritual advancement, and I protect. It does all these things at the same time. A very good point. That okay, good. Let's see what my answer is. It's based on this chapter. I say I would disagree with it. Because the Lord has no material motivations, because he has no material body, and thus he has no false conception of I and mine. It is therefore incorrect that he feels pleasure or pain when blasphemed or offered prayers. This is impossible for him. Thus he has no enemy and no friend. When he chastises the demons, it's for their good. And when he accepts prayers for devotees, it's for their good. He's affected neither by prayers nor blasphemy. So the Lord is all good. He wants us to bring back to the spiritual world, but still understanding the details of the plan of the Lord. we have to consult with acharyas and all the points we made. Let us now go to another point. Would you agree or disagree with the following statements? This should be get a more clear answer. So are you agreeing or agreeing with, regardless of one's mood, focusing the mind on the Lord is beneficial? Explain the reason behind your response. So if someone wants to reply for that, to that. Is someone with SSD? I don't know who it is, but you can speak, please. SSD.
Sorry, I didn't put my name. It's Sanak Sanatan Das from Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So it came clear in that section that yes, the Lord is also benefiting the ones who are envious of him. Ultimately, they're getting benefited by merging into his form, or he's punishing them that they ultimately get rectified. But it should be anukulena, it should be favorable. We should think favorable of the Lord. Only in a favorable mentality we can ultimately attain bhakti or spiritual service in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I disagree.
So that's a good point you are making, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, only by ananya bhakta, pure devotional service, you can go back to the spiritual world. But what these demons attain is the Brahman realization, but that's not a full realization. So it's not a full
and
mercy.
They have to come back, yeah. They have to come back.
That's a good point. Divya Lila Mataji, do you want to say something?
Yes, Maharaj. Also, Jaya and Vijaya, they are not some like ordinary jiva like me. They are the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, and what they did may not I mean, they had the prerogative to enter into the Vaikuntha world, whether they think in the mood of enmity or whatever, but may not be applicable to an ordinary jiva. And ordinary jiva has to follow what the acharyas have said.
Right, that's also the point that Gaur Krishna Prabhu makes, that the Lord does different things at the same time. So we have here, one must know, yes, this Shishupal is Jai in the spiritual world, and he had a special mission to take part in the pastimes of the Lord, to give the Lord a good fight. So it's like that. It's not easy to understand sometimes. Thank you, Murati Fyalila. Very good. Gaur Krishna Prabhu, you want to say something else?
Yes. If you take the statement literally, I agree, because it says, regardless of one's mood, focusing the mind on the Lord is beneficial. So just thinking of the Lord is good. Okay, it should be favorable, but there is still benefit, whatever the result is. It's still benefit, and not because, like King Vena, he, I mean, he wasn't thinking of the Lord at all, was he? Therefore,
yeah.
he. So I would say yes, it's right, but of course with the caveat that it should be favorable.
Okay, good. That point of King Vena is important. King Vena stopped all the sacrifices and he said, "You don't have to worship Lord Vishnu. I'm the Supreme Lord." He was not thinking of Krishna. That was a problem, and he went to hell. So. Dalita Pretimai Mataji, yes, please speak.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Like Gaura Krishna Prabhu just now, he said, if we take up this sentence, regardless of one's mood and focusing the mind on the Lord is beneficial or not, even in the 6th canto, Yamadhar Maharaj, he says to his Yamadutas that even if one tells the name of the Lord, even in a joking way or something like that, he still has some benefit. But as like everyone told, they may not get the direct service, like they may not go back to Godhead, but they just get this Kaivalya Mukti.
Yes, yes, because you have to develop a service attitude, because that's what they do in the spiritual world. Without developing that, it's difficult. But Jai and Vijay, they appeared here, and Sisupal was serving the Lord as in his past times. Although it's not clear on the first sight, you must know he was Jai in the spiritual world and so on. Very good point. Thank you. Vasudev Krishna Prabhu, please.
Just also one point which Narad Muni makes in the next verse was that actually it is difficult to meditate on the Lord in a favorable way than it is in the unfavorable way. So that is also something which maybe we can also put in this context, because regardless of the mood, I mean, Narad Muni is making the statement that if you are thinking unfavorably, that is sometimes you can do it more intensely than you can do it in favorable manner.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you see someone as your enemy, and you feel really hurt, you always think of him very intensely. That thank you. Praneshwar Govinda Prabhu, please speak.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Am I audible to you?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Praneshwar Govinda Prabhu, we are hearing you. Please speak.
In the purport of verse 26, Srila Prabhupada mentions that regardless of one's mood, you can see that by rapt attention fixed upon Krishna, one becomes purified. Thus, one is delivered from material life. And also we get the example of the gopis. They were always fearful that to be caught by their relatives and husbands or brothers and fathers. Still, they kept going to meet Krishna, and this could not check their devotional service. So we can understand that it does not depend on one's mood, but simply focusing the mind on the Lord is beneficial too. Yes.
Yes, that's about, you can think of the Lord in different modes, and achieve different relationships with the Lord. And we will see that in the next verses, where Prabhupada will very sweetly speak about Ragamach and the devotees in Vrindavan. Good. Now I will show you what my answer was, based on the purpose Srila Prabhupada gave. The stress is given to the favorable execution of devotional service, not purposeful blasphemy of the Lord. Sisupal's achievement of oneness with the Supreme Lord was different, because Jai and Vijay, from the very beginning of their material existence, were ordained to treat the Supreme Lord as an enemy for 3 lives and then return home back to Godhead. Jai and Vijay inwardly knew that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they purposely became his enemies to be delivered from material life. Generally, if one blasphemes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is punished. Bhagavad Gita 16:19. Anything done by those who have taken the attitude of enemies will be baffled, mohasa. If these enemies try to be liberated or to merge into the existence of Brahman, if they desire to be elevated to higher planetary systems as karmis, or even if they desire to return home back to Godhead, they certainly will be baffled. As for Hiranyakasipu, although he was extremely inimical towards Supreme Lord, he always thought of his son, who was a great devotee. Therefore, by the grace of his son, Prahlad Maharaj, Hiranyakasipu was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that it's good to focus your mind on the Lord in any mood, but it's better to have the proper attitude of a devotee. So thank you. If there are any more questions or comments? Yes, Rasal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhanwad.
Yes, Rasal Prabhu, please speak. We hear you.
My question is from previous class, yesterday class, and still living in my mind, the time enhances the Satoguna. That's one thing. And time is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Lord is not under the influence of time. And Lord favors the Satoguna, and Lord is controlling the time. So it seems that partiality is still on the part of the Lord. Though Lord favors the Satoguna because it's very close to going back to Godhead, because by developing Satoguna, one can go back to Godhead. But still, it shows a little partiality on the behalf of the Lord, that Lord is favoring Satoguna, not the other guna. And the verse says time favors the Satoguna, and the time is under the control of the Lord. So how do we understand all these things, Maharaj?
Well, we see that in the pastimes of the Lord, the demigods, they are in goodness. And it may seem in the pastime that they are going to lose or whatever, but finally they are always victorious. At the end, they get always victory. That, like the Pandavas, time was with them. That 14 years in exile and then the Battle of Kurukshetra, but they were victorious. That because they are favorable to the Lord, mode of pure goodness. They were pure devotees, sattva, the sattva guna. So in that way, that time favors that, but that's, yeah, these examples are showing that very clearly, because the mode of goodness is purifying, is good, it gives knowledge, that, and the one who is in knowledge, he gets always victory. That's the purpose of speaking Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives Arjuna knowledge, and at the end he gets, it is stated in the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, wherever there is Arjuna and Krishna, there will always be a victory. So that's stated. How that is true, we can see in the practice that to the pastimes that Srila Prabhupada came to America. And so many came before him into America, and they preached Bhagavad Gita, but nobody became a devotee. But Prabhupada came, and gradually, through the time, he spread it all over the world. He was victorious. And the others spent also time, but what was the result of their time? Because they were not favored by time, because they were not in pure goodness. That's what I could say, Rasala Prabhu. Does that help to understand this? Okay. That's we have 2 more questions, and we will take these 2 to finish. Divya Lila Mataji, please speak.
Yes, Maharaj, I have 2 questions. So one from the purport. Prabhupada gives the example here, Vritasura, but in the pastime of Vritasura, if we see the conversation between Chitraketu and Vritasura, Prabhupada writes these are some funny conversation between the god brothers, but Mother Parvati took it as an offense and cursed her. But here Prabhupada gives Vritasura as an example that the Lord punishes someone for one life in some abominable species. So how to understand? There he says that's quite normal between god brothers, but here Prabhupada says that gives the example of Vritasura. So how to understand this, Maharaj?
This is part of Krishna's lila, that Chitraketu was going back to Godhead, but just the Lord wanted to show, if you blasphemer devotee, then in next time, in next life, yes, you become a demon or you get reactions, but still it brings you back, go back to Godhead. That although the offense made by Chitraketu was not a very big thing, but Parvati took it very serious. But still, the Lord, as his pastimes, for his pastimes, he arranged the situation as such, because like our Krishna Prabhu said, the Lord does many things at the same time. Many things at the same time. So at the same time, he wanted to show that Chitraketu, by being cursed, he was not even disturbed. And then we have, he was not even disturbed. And Mother Parvati, she said to Lord Shiva that I curse him and he's even not disturbed. And at that moment, the Lord Shiva instructs Parvati, Narayana Parasarve Nakutachana Pipyati Svarya Pavarhyanarekas Apitulyarta Darshinaha, that these devotees, they are engaged in devotional service of Lord Narayan. They don't fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planet, liberation, and hellish plants are the same. They only want to serve the Lord. And at that moment, Mother Parvati felt bad, and she thought, I cursed him unnecessarily. But still, the curse will have its effect as for the lila of the Supreme Lord. Does that help to understand that?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
And my next question, Maharaj, regarding the question we discussed now, like to understand the motivations of the Lord, that whatever the Lord does is good for the jiva. But sometimes when devotees, when they lose their children in a very immature stage, but how to console them, because it is very difficult to face that. Yes, we understand theoretically that whatever the actions done by the Lord is good for all the jivas, but I don't know, because sometimes we meet devotees who are in that situation.
Yeah, so our children are spirit souls. They are eternal. They don't die. We get only the reactions of our past misdeeds, that's all. That if we understand that we are not his body, and that everyone is a servant of Krishna and goes on eternally, that is for the body which we are not, then we will not be disturbed by all these things. But you have the example of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur, in one room, his son died, and in the other room, there Lord Chaitanya was doing his kirtan, and at a certain moment, Lord Chaitanya stopped and said to the devotee, I feel something is wrong. And the devotee said, yes, the son of Shiva died. And Lord Chaitanya went in the other room, and he said to Shiva, yeah, why didn't you tell me? And he said, I don't want this insignificant thing to disturb your pastimes, your divine pastimes of kirtan. But Malati was very affected but then the Lord revived, made the soul enter the body of the child again, and the child spoke, like in the case of Chitraketu. So if we are disturbed because we are full of this false ego, and that's what we learned today. We have to give up this false ego. Nobody dies. Everyone goes on eternally. We leave the body. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So I look forward to see you on Saturday for the next part. The lesson on Saturday will start later, 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So please read the rest of the chapter. We will finish the chapter on Saturday. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj. Jai Prabhupada.
I will